Hey there, I'm Annie Little, and this is Voice Talk, where you'll get expert tips on vocal technique, science, and artistry to help you become a better vocalist. So today, my guest is Graham Cochrane of The Recording Revolution. So if you have been wanting to record your own music and you don't know where to start, or you've been recording and you have equipment, but you're not getting what you want, you're not getting the sound you want, and you're not sure your equipment is right, or you just feel stuck around making great recordings, this episode is for you. Graham is amazing. He's been doing this for a really long time. He's had Recording Revolution since 2009. So he has a gigantic library of awesome tutorials, guides, and courses that will help you take your ideas and get them out there to the world in a beautiful recording, radio-worthy recording. So without much further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Graham Cochrane of The Recording Revolution.
Absolutely. Thanks for the time, Annie.
I'm just excited to have found you, first of all, because I've done a lot of home recording through the years, and I would have loved to have had a resource like you when I started, because I had no idea what I was doing. And now I teach voice, and so I've got a lot of singer-songwriters and people who would like to record, but as you know, it can be really overwhelming.
Yeah.
So here, I'll just start with kind of some of my audience's frustrations, and we can sort of talk them through. I think some of them haven't even really started, or if they have, they have maybe a USB mic that plugs in and they can't figure out why there's like a ringing or a high noise that's happening. So can we just talk a little bit about, why do we need the interface and the sort of basic studio setup, as opposed to just, or I mean, is it possible to record just plugging a USB mic into your computer?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it is possible. And USB mics today sound a lot better than they did before, because what they're doing is a lot of manufacturers have taken their actual studio mics and just converted them. So here's what's happening. There's microphones, which is an analog technology, right? That can take your voice and turn it into an electrical signal. And then it has to turn digital somehow before it hits your computer. So traditionally in digital recording, it's funny that digital has a tradition now, because it used to be
right.
When I was learning audio, it was all the old guys telling me you can't record to a computer. But traditionally with digital recording, you have audio equipment that plugs into something that eventually turns it into a signal that you can throw into your computer, so then you can manipulate it. And all a USB mic has done is gotten rid of the interface, which was the box, and just put it inside the microphone itself, which is convenient. But there's two problems with it. One, it's not as high quality of a conversion. So yes, it's taking your voice and converting it to ones and zeros for your computer, so you can record into GarageBand or whatever you have.
Right.
But it's not going to do it at the most quality level, although some of them sound pretty good. The second problem is just that you don't have a lot of control over the signal, how loud or quiet it is. And that control is pretty important to getting a really good sound. So it is possible. And I would rather someone get a USB mic and start with that than not get started, which is it's more of a mental game. That's usually what happens. It's well, I don't have everything that Graham said, so I'm not going to do it. And I don't want that to happen. So it is possible. It's just, maybe it's like a baby step and here's the thing, to even, Annie, because I guess if you've checked out some of my stuff, I recommend stuff that's pretty affordable. A USB mic, if you can spend $50 to $100 on a USB mic, you can spend a couple $100 extra and maybe go $300 all in and have everything you would need. So we're not talking about a big jump to have a lot more professional stuff.
Right. And having that interface, and which usually or the ones that you're recommending have that built-in preamp, so they don't even need a separate preamp if they don't want one. But the interface, monitors, headphones, microphone, all in, you've got recommendations under $350.
Yes, absolutely. And you can have a killer sounding studio.
Yeah. So what do you think that high-pitched sound is that someone's getting with their USB and GarageBand? That could be, what would that be?
Oh my gosh. See, the problem with USB mics is that there's no way to troubleshoot. Like it's probably something in the microphone or in the where it's converting it. Um, it could be it could be the room. I mean, if you have an air conditioning going or there's some like
Mhm.
sometimes it's just like your computer sounds. It could be electronic interference in your room. This is the thing that will drive you nuts if you're
Right.
recording is like you'll notice all the sounds. So um it could be a million things. I do just know that on cheap USB mics, they're best for like a Zoom call like this or
Mhm.
something simple. They're not the best for recording your music because you just don't have as clean of a signal. And
Right.
if you're serious about your music, you can spend just a couple $100. I don't want people to think you have to spend a ton, but the beautiful thing about getting an interface and a microphone is you now are future proof also. If you want to plug in a guitar or a keyboard, or if you want to record something that's really quiet, you need to have a lot more control on the gain, which is the volume knob on your preamp. It
Mhm.
just gives you a lot more control, which is nice to have down the road. You're going to want that eventually anyway.
Right. So, what about just the feeling of overwhelm that can come with like, Pro Tools or some of, all of these
Yeah.
different software DAWs, right? Is what they're called, digital
Hmm.
audio
Workstation.
workstations. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm finding some people were just like, it's like they get stuck right there. They're just like, I don't know. What are some ways to kind of get started learning Pro Tools or whatever they're going to choose? Because they all do the same thing, right? So you just have to learn how to do it
Yes.
within the program that you're working in.
Yes, exactly. So if you're a Mac user, just use GarageBand. GarageBand, when it came out, like when I was in college, which was a long time ago when it came out, it was a toy. It is not a toy anymore. It is a legitimate platform to make an entire record in. So if you have a Mac, you already have GarageBand. If you have a tablet, you have GarageBand. If you have a phone, you have GarageBand. If it's all Apple products. So if you're Apple, I would start there because it's really easy to get started and it's fun and it allows you just to think more like a musician and not get bogged down in the technical, which I like.
Hmm.
Um, Pro Tools has a free version. So Pro Tools is like one of the oldest platforms for recording, and it's in every major studio. There's a lot more choice now, but it's kind of ubiquitous. It's like the Photoshop
Right.
of the recording world. They have a free version called Pro Tools First, which you can download, and it limits you to like only recording three. You can only save 3 songs at a time because it's all saved in the cloud, and a few other limitations in terms of like how many tracks. But I've made full songs on it and done whole tutorial series on that. That's a great way to get started with Pro Tools to see if you like it. And I did two whole free series on my YouTube channel. One's called How to Record a Song from Scratch, and one's called How to Mix a Song from Scratch. And I believe I do both of those series in Pro Tools first. And I walk you through like the basics of, even if you're not using Pro Tools, it's like you said, Annie, it's like the same selecting tracks, arming tracks,
Hmm.
some basic editing tools. I think if you were to watch that series, it would kind of simplify the process for you and get you up to speed on like what you're trying to do with this software.
Hmm.
It's just like if you've ever seen a big mixing console at a live venue, at a church, in a recording studio, when there's all these faders and all these knobs, it's so overwhelming. Like the physical thing is just as overwhelming as the computer version. And I remember when I first sat in front of one of those boards, someone explained to me, if you can understand one of the channels, you understand the whole board because it's the same thing all the way across. So it looks complex, but it's like if you can understand what the EQ is doing, the compressor, and then the fader, it's just like learn one part and it really is multiplied across. And it's kind of the same with DAWs or these recording softwares. Just learn how you could do stuff on one track and then you realize it's all just more of those tracks.
Right. Right. Oh, yeah, that's great. I like that philosophy. It's like just learn the one and it's the whole picture.
Yeah.
So let's say then that they are getting into that and are able to sort of do a basic demo and get their vocal in and even some analog instrument like a guitar or something. But they want to go beyond and add electronic sounds or drums. Um, where do you go from there? And is that something that is possible for someone who's not a drummer? I mean, do you send them towards like loops or uh, programming each individual drum sound? And what do you suggest for that?
Yeah, like unless you are a drummer or you're really good at programming drums, like I wouldn't touch programming drums. Like I don't even do it. I just use loop. If I can't use a real drummer, I just use loops or and GarageBand and Pro Tools. All of these come with great drum loops. Uh,
Mhm.
GarageBand, I don't know if it has it, but it's Big Brother Logic Pro. It's just the Big Brother of GarageBand. It's like a $200 upgrade, which is not much to go from the free version to like the flagship version. That has a whole virtual drummer in it where it's kind of like loops but on steroids, where the loops can like have more swing, or it can be, busier or softer, but it's basically you're choosing loops, which makes it sound professional. So for example, in that series I was talking about how to record a song from scratch, I kind of start with an acoustic guitar and I'm like, here's the riff that I'm thinking about. I want to do a full recording, but it's just me. So I go into Pro Tools and I just find some loops and I start to audition loops, and I kind of chop up a couple of the loops to make them have some variety, but it's pretty basic. But the whole song is built out of a drum loop and then me just plugging in my bass and then playing some guitar through some virtual guitar amps that come for free, and then singing. And then even keyboard stuff, I cannot play keyboard. I have a little, let me grab it, like a little mini, like, 2-octave
Yeah.
keyboard controller, and I can like two finger it. I can maybe stretch and play a couple chords, and then I fix it later. But I'll play like if I want an organ or like just like a Rhodes piano, I just hear that sound. I'll just kind of create a little chord. I'll add a couple things. But all of these softwares, if you can get a cheap $90, $50 keyboard controller, it has no sounds in it, but you plug it in USB to your computer, and then it can trigger the sounds that come included with GarageBand or Pro Tools first. So even for someone like me who, like, if you can play piano, you are ahead of everybody else. And if you are like me and cannot play piano, you can still fake it enough to get some really cool sounds. And there's so many cool loops. That's one thing I do like about GarageBand and Logic, is they have created one of the widest loop libraries for free and made it super user friendly to just drag them in and duplicate them and find fun loops. So it's a great tool for the single home studio musician who doesn't have a band to just, especially if you're a vocalist.
Yeah.
Vocalists, I feel like, struggle because they feel like they cannot do anything without the band, right? Even though they're going to be like the star of the band, and no offense to instrumentalists, but vocalists, we are, we
Right.
are the star. Um, they feel though like handicapped in the studio because they can't play by themselves unless they can. But GarageBand or any of these tools allow you to quickly create a bed of instruments to practice or to write a song over. And so it's kind of a great time to be a singer-songwriter, even if you can't play anything.
So tell me the name of that tutorial that you show that it's creating a song from scratch.
How to record a song from scratch. Yep,
Okay.
on my YouTube channel.
All right. And you use the free version of Pro Tools to do that in there?
Yes, I do. And I'm going to pull it up now. I also do a couple series with GarageBand. Let me see which ones they are. Some of them I've done like so many pieces of software now, I forget which ones I did and which. Let me see for you.
And even the Pro Tools version has loops, right? The free loops that it comes with that you can play with. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And then I even did an entire, I mean, if you want to be crazy, I did an entire song just on my iPhone with no interface. Like I sang into the phone, and I did a whole video on that. So I play the keyboard, I play a fake bass guitar, I put this in front of my guitar amp and just play some guitar, and then I held it up and sang into it, and mixed it all on the phone with GarageBand on the phone. And actually is pretty decent. You can kind of compare it to the studio version of the song that I did. So if you want
Yeah.
to
Oh, that's so
totally just use
cool.
your phone. Yeah.
All right, awesome. I'm excited to see that because I do use Pro Tools, but I get a little stuck at that point, and I've been a little spoiled because my husband is a drummer, and so for the music that I've recorded, I just pass it on to him, and he does that part. But
That's
I've
perfect.
really wanted to be able to add my own drums and all of that, and so I'm gonna watch that tutorial too.
There you go.
So, okay, cool. So let's see. What about getting to like into the editing and mixing and mastering stuff? So, All of that is all, you have tutorials on all that too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like literally I follow up the how to record a song from scratch with a how to mix that song from scratch. So it's the same song. So it's kind of a cool evolution. And I walk through kind of, so that's mixing. So if recording is the process that we all, even if we're not music people, we understand what recording is. I get it. They're in the studio, there's microphones capturing the performance. Mixing is the post-production. It's like when you film the movie and then there's the people color correcting and adding the special effects. That's what mixing is. And that's probably the most complex part, and it's probably the part that people are most intimidated by. You can most easily screw up even a good recording with, so it feels kind of like, oh, I don't want to ruin it. Just like you could take a good picture, open it up in Photoshop and start playing with all these filters and all these things, and you just jacked up your picture.
Right.
So I think people get intimidated by that, but I try to teach mixing in a way that's pretty simple. So for example, if you get any software, GarageBand, Pro Tools, any of them, right, you're going to see a couple of tools that are like ubiquitous in the music world. And one is EQ, which is short for equalization. And we're all familiar, like in our car stereo, bass, treble, right? It's like that, but more precise. And that's really helpful to take, if you recorded a piano and some drums and your vocal and a bass, and they sounded good by themselves, but together they're kind of getting muddy or covering each other up, or the piano's not as bright as you'd like, or the vocal's getting lost. Instead of just turning volumes up or down, you can kind of zoom in and now like turn up just the high frequencies of your voice up, or turn down a muddy frequency from a piano, and all of a sudden it sounds clearer and cleaner. So you get a little more control. But all that is like smart volume knobs basically on certain frequencies
Right.
across the track. So if you can learn EQ, that's probably the most helpful tool. And they all come included with these softwares, even GarageBand. So EQ is the most helpful. And I tell people to start there and really learn that.
Okay. And like, and I mean, I know from my own experience, it's like really having to tune your ear to hear some of that stuff. So would you recommend kind of using some of the presets just to sort of get a feel for, oh, okay, that's what they're saying, like a standard preset for maybe a female vocal or whatever would be, and then kind of tweak it from there?
It's not a bad idea. The only what you learn from a preset is what they think most, let's say, female vocals need.
Mm-hmm.
So you can learn like, okay, maybe female vocals can be a little too harsh sometimes and their voices are already bright. So maybe certain bright, fancy microphones make them too bright. So you might learn a few things, but you have to be pretty observant. What I don't like about presets for EQ is that they have no idea what your female vocal sounds like,
Yeah, yeah,
Because what does a female vocal sound like? There's so many human female voices, and
yeah, of course.
even then, so many microphone and voice combinations. And even then, you don't know what that female voice needs to sound like in comparison with the rest of the band or the other instruments. So it's kind of a weird thing to say, here's a female vocal preset. I'd rather you learn what EQ does and what you want it to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the more you EQ, the more you're going to see some common things that are helpful in general. And so I think presets are a good learning curve, but I would study and think, why are they doing this? And most importantly, like, does it help my track or not? Does it make my voice sound better or worse? And even though, like you said, you do need to tune your ears, you do also know what sounds good. I mean, I think people underestimate how knowledgeable they are about what does sound good to them.
Right.
Uh, and one thing that will help in general with any of this process is pull in a professional track that you love, that you're like, if you're kind of in the Taylor Swift genre, pull in a Taylor Swift song into your Pro Tools session or your GarageBand session, or flip back and forth from GarageBand to iTunes or whatever, or Spotify, and pull the volume down so the song is about a similar volume to what you're working on, so you can have a fair comparison. And then listen and go, wow, Taylor's vocal sounds really clear and forward and way brighter than mine. I thought mine sounded bright, but in comparison to hers, mine sounds kind of dull. And then that kind of teaches you to kind of mimic what you're hearing on the professional song. I do that for drums. I do that for
Yeah.
guitars. Super informative.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great idea. A being against similar genres or what you're really what you're aiming for.
Yeah, totally.
So, tell us where You have like a lot of cool stuff going on too. I'm amazed that you actually have your other brand too. You have your Recording Revolution, and then you kind of took what you learned from Recording Revolution on the business side and turned that into a whole other business. But do you want to just give us a little rundown on where to find you, and even tell us a little bit about your other brand too? And maybe I know you just launched probably that the EP, or not EP. Yeah, was it
Yeah,
an EP?
EP
Yeah,
Blueprint.
the
Yeah.
EP. Yeah, Blueprint. But is that closed now?
It is, yeah.
So maybe bad timing, but I'm assuming that will open up again at some point this
Yes, it
year. Or...
definitely. If you find any of those links, there's a waiting list, but we will open it up again. That's been a real popular one. That was new earlier this year because it's not just recording; it's also like the songwriting and creation process, and then releasing your music and getting your first 1,000 streams on Spotify. That was a lot of fun to do.
Oh, that's
Um,
great.
yeah. So, I mean, I would say on the Recording Revolution side of things, if you just go to the website or go to the YouTube channel, there's a ton of free content to get you started. On the website at recordingrevolution.com, there's a free guides section at the top. And that has all of these series that I was talking about there. And that's a great place to start with. Like, there's videos and then accompanying PDFs. So that might be a great place to get started. On the business side, yeah, like I started doing YouTube videos a long time ago and teaching people, and I thought it would just be a side fun thing. I thought I might get some freelance client work out of it. And when it turned into something bigger than I thought it would ever be, and people really wanted more content, I had to like learn how to make it a business and make the time I was spending making all these videos for free, make it worth it. So over the years, I learned how to monetize it and developed a really cool business, and it just blew up and has become way bigger than I thought it would be. So when that happened, I got a lot of people asking, "Hey, I didn't realize this was a business that you're running. Like, how did you turn it into a business? What does that look like? What are you doing? How do you give away content and also sell content? And how do you build your audience and find people to sell to? How does that all work?" So
Mhm.
I started coaching people kind of offline years ago, and then I just felt like really like I need to create a resource just like I did with Recording Revolution that's just all about building these types of passive income, knowledge, business, whatever you want to call them, where you can create content and create a brand out of what you know, what you're good at. So I started that under my personal brand under grahamcochrane.com. So
Mhm.
every week there I'm sharing content on how to come up with your idea, how to build content on YouTube or blogs or podcast, how to build digital products that you can sell. And one reason why I'm able to run a separate business is because the Recording Revolution is a scalable model. It's a digital product based business. So over the years, I just continue to make it more efficient. So it doesn't take me a lot of time to run that business now. So I can start a second business, or I can keep shooting free videos for fun, or I can do other projects or jump on a call like this with you and have fun. And so that I've seen has become really appealing, especially right now in the middle of COVID and this pandemic. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people have been like, man, I toyed with the idea of starting something online a year or two ago, but I could really use another income stream right now. So I'm just trying to help people monetize what they know and what they're good at. And there's a lot of tools that are available right now to do that super cheap and super easily.
Yeah, absolutely. And even for musicians and or artists that maybe even have a skill in something else that they could do while they're continuing to pursue their music, or something in the music business as well, like you've done with Recording Revolution. So,
Absolutely. I have a ton of students who are musicians who have created content around music, or they have learned how to monetize their music in sort of more modern ways than just selling your music or selling downloads. Like, there's a lot more creative ways you can do that to supplement what you're doing. So there's a lot of ways I think when you're an artist or a musician, you need to think like multiple income streams as
yeah.
opposed to just trying to hit the one bullseye and hope that it pays the bills, because it's a little more practical and realistic, and it's a little more future proof, because I'd rather have multiple streams if one gets cut off. Like a lot of my live musician friends, right?
Yeah.
They can't play, they can't gig. This whole
Mhm.
thing is ruined, and they were the best of the best of the best. And you could never have predicted that. So the guys and the gals who already had other types of income streams, it's not as much as they were making before, but they can still feed their families and keep the lights on. And so it's kind of definitely relevant for musicians today more than ever.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm actually in the middle of exploring that myself because, I had started out just teaching one-on-one voice lessons and now and also I think it gives you an opportunity to reach a lot more people, which is amazing.
Yes.
And so now I don't think actually I'll be going back to one-on-one in-person lessons anytime soon, considering the studies that they've been doing on singing, and it's like
Yeah.
basically coughing on someone. So, um, yeah. So I've been actually listening to your podcast and I'm on that same road as well. So this has
That's
been
awesome.
really informative and really helpful, and I'm super excited to share this with my people. Um, and give them the opportunity to be able to take what they have inside their head and get it out there so that it can be shared and recorded and, manifested into a real thing.
That's the best. Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad. And I hope it helps your people.
Yeah, yeah, me too. So I'm sure it will. So thanks again for your time. And I will
My
throw
pleasure.
all your links in the comments so that everybody can find you easily. And yeah, stay safe and well in Florida, and I will keep seeing you on the internet.
Absolutely. Thanks for the time, Annie.